Hello and welcome to Cursor Greenfield episode 2, where you tolerate, a lot of naughty words, a decent semblance of incoherent rambling, all in order to extract a solid 5 minutes of cursor-related tips and tricks, pearls and wisdom that will give you the insight to prevent long-term technical debt in your new cursor-related projects. So we are exactly where we left off before, but the problem is that I made a microphone related issue because this is, of course, what we should expect. So I did do exactly one prompt. I asked it to begin work on the to-do. Because I have a to-do and a PRD, this is a very simple prompt, review to-do and PRD. I did use Claude 4. We don't need Gemini yet, and we certainly don't need Opus, right? We only need Sonnet. This is an execution run, and Sonnet is very aggressive about execution, which is great, while being very smart. And then it attempted to run. I attempted to give it a yes prompt. It complained about my directory being all capital. It's a little sensitive, right? And then I remedied that, and we have executed the very first foray into the Next.js app. So first step, because we have uploaded our files, our reference files, into the root here, we have to make a subfolder. And a really good way to screw up your life is, let me move this stupid balloon thing. There we go. Good way to screw up your life is to put, what's the other? I mean, we could call this VS Code, right? Cursor is a 4, but to be one level outside of the project's actual root. That is a really good way to have the LLM write files in erroneous locations. So the very first thing that we have to do is we have to reopen this. I've moved my reference folders down. And now we are going to open our lowercase file, add access, which is the Next.js root. We have a lovely Git file in here. Very first thing I'm going to do is publish. So this is wiping my project workspace, right? Which is not great. It's wiping my project workspace, my old chat. Remember the old chat and how obsessive I was about documenting that very first prompt? That is partly because we do have to migrate over to this project workspace. Now, it looks like I've started a GitHub repo. I'm a little bit concerned here because I don't know where this is publishing. I guess it already has my credentials in VS Code. Okay, publish branch, access. Let's make this private. And before we do anything, we need to make sure that we have Git tracking. This is duly important. One, cursor. We can never cross cursor's restore checkpoint feature. Number 2, and this is actually particularly evinced by the fact that cursor's restore checkpoint feature has become much more limited. I don't know if it was memory intensive or what, but they've removed it down to individual prompts. One prompt could be a very long time, and you might want it in the middle between the prompts, right? That's gone now. So commits, however, are time-tested, time-honored tradition of being able to restore the project to a prior state. And that is very important because if we loosen up the grip on the range just a little bit, the AI will quickly destroy the project and ruin potentially your entire branch. Okay. So we are set up on Git. Let's look at our directory. We know exactly what's going on. We need to add our context again. And now that we have manually executed the Next.js install, we will simply ask it to execute begin work on to do. Now, before we even do that, I'm going to show you a little something. Cursor settings. We all have rules, right? We all have rules. Where is it that I want? I want rules. I have some new rules here, which is before adding a feature fixing bug, run all unit tests. After you're done, run all unit tests again. This is irrelevant right now. Fortunately, these rules in this location are shared across all of my cursor windows on this machine, and that rule is necessary for other projects. Use MCPs as much as possible. Note this is all caps, right? There's a reason for that. Obviously, it ranks it higher in the priority list. I don't know about having these rules be separate in Cursor itself. That is a new feature. I haven't quite tested that, but you are probably well aware some models are hesitant to use MCPs. And on top of that, even when they are aggressive, they will not use your particular tooling. And I want context 7 and perplexity search for debugging purposes specifically. This is what I really wanted to show you, and I guess we're fine to just put that there. This is buggy in Cursor. So Cursor boys, take off the, so look at this. So it just absolutely closes it out. We'll use the tooltip. think step by step. I copied this at some point, then augmented on my own. All you want. I would recommend. There's only a few things here that really, really matter, right? And that is when communicating with the user, use copious Gen Z slang and emojis. Provocative emojis. So that's I do not know how to spell provocative. Provocative. Oh my God. Lord forgive me for spelling errors. I know if you guys are watching this, you are in fact programmers, you also don't know how to spell. So we obviously needed to use a lot of Gen Z slang because that's funny. And it's important to have fun while you're having fun. The other thing here is, I want to nudge it to use MCPs more. This is one giant thing. This is left over before we had the segment of rules. I want it to know, one, to be dry. The AI hates being dry. Do not repeat yourself. It loves repeating itself. And again, this is a problem specifically if it doesn't have a really strong project structure to begin with, which, let's be honest, you're probably not going to have the world's best project structure. You remember my initial prompt was quite long. I wrote quite a long prompt, and then I improved it for AI using AI. But as we deviate from my initial prompting, we both gain and lose some of the features and functionality that we expect. And generally, we are not going to be documenting the kinds of shared components. I actually did a little bit of that early on. So at the very least, we want to nudge it to be dry. And then it says this is at the very bottom. We can't open it because Cursor has broken their thing. Of course they have. You will work off of a to-do file. When you are implementing the changes, you will go back and check them off. That's basically what it is. You're going to see that in action right now. So because I have that rule, presumably that's why it has good to-do related behavior, which is essential for what I am calling a run. So while we're here, let's do, I think we already did npm install. Let's do an npm run dev. That is default for Next.js. And that will simply be a next dev, right? Now, there are a couple of things that can really help us with Next.js development specifically, and I throw them all into the dev command. Let's let it cook for now. We'll find something else to talk about. Oh, I forgot my non-copyrighted chill, jazzy, lo-fi hip-hop royalty-free. It is jazz pop music. I think I hear it. All right. So, fire. Time to get this subscription management platform popping. That is exactly what you need. So think about this in your own life. If somebody came up to you and they did not say, yo, for real, no cap on God, you would be disappointed. As would I. All right, bestie. It's just better. I don't know why Eli keeps removing the Gen Z slang situation. I think it's adorable. All right, npm install Supabase. Auth helpers, Next.js. Note that by using the best-in-class modern stack, Next.js plus Supabase plus Prisma plus Tailwind, and I think I will probably add a shadcn in here. Not 100% sure what shadcn is, but I'm pretty sure I like it. We are going to have a much easier time. One, because the LLMs know what's up. They know what to do. Two, because we're going to end up with a fairly... it's not modular, that's not the right word, repeatable framework by which we'll be able to build new applications. This will help you in the event, and I think some of you are probably coming to videos like this. God bless you. Here you are, my dear friend. After completely failing a project simply because you got in too deep, right? We got some kids screaming. For these smaller projects specifically, I have done exactly that, right? I wanted to see, hey, can I one-shot this app idea? Can I just absolutely trivialize this version of development? And the answer is often, unfortunately, no. With these greenfield tips, my hope is that you can get further, or if you discover that the scope is not quite as small as you thought. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar, anyone? The scope is not quite as small as you thought, then maybe you can continue your work. So I have files blocked by global ignore. I really don't like that. What's it trying to do? It's trying to make components. It's trying to do all kinds of wonderful stuff. Cannot edit files blocked by global ignore. Environment files. All right, so I don't like that. We are going to raw dog, speaking of Gen Z slang, raw dog the env right out of the box. I don't really care about exposing my env right now. We are not going to be using Vercel, right? That's also important to know. Vercel is expensive and a pain in the ass, right? Now, there are two ways that Cursor, there are three ways that Cursor can completely fuck up with dot files. Way number one is it's in get ignore. That's probably the most common. If you were not raw dogging your envs into GitHub, I don't know what to tell you. So sorry. That's a little rough. It's a little rough. It's private repos for free, but I get not trusting the envs. I've had exposure attacks before too. So whatever. So get ignore is number one. There is a cursor setting for, let's find it. Look how helpful I am. You guys are welcome. I'm going through all this work here. There is a cursor ignore. So we have a cursor ignore now. We actually just made it by accident. And if, of course, that is, so cursor looks at cursor ignore and get ignore to ignore things. And then what else does it do? It's not in here. There is a toggleable option. The toggleable option. You know, I think I might actually make this public. Oh, but shit, if I make it public, it's going to do that across all my files. All right, I guess we still won't get to play with memory. Here it is. Character level, auto parse, dot file protection. So this is YOLO mode. Changing it from YOLO mode was a mistake. Cursor boys, feel free to DM me, message me. File deletion protection, I do like that. MCP protection, your LLM will never use MCPs anyway. You have to beg it. Dot file protection. So prevent agent from modifying dot files. We want to turn that off. I want to turn it off. You can do what you want. But all right. I've made the env editable. Proceed. Particularly early on, it's going to save me a lot of time for it to be able to modify the env files. That's basically the main thing that we're doing. Now, one of the things I'm a little nervous about to do on camera is I'm going to go and get some credentials from my Supabase instance. I don't know. Cannot ignore files by global ignore. All right. Oh, so it made an env local just fine. We're going to push a commit because I like seeing the diff as often as I can. God damn. All right. Cannot edit files blocked by global ignore. So let's see what's going on with that. We have a get ignore. It's trying to edit. What is it? It's trying to edit env local. It managed to make an env local. Managed to make an env local. And then, yes, here it is. It's blocked. File in cursor ignore. Oh my God, is that obnoxious. This affects multiple projects of mine. I would love to figure this out. You can see right here that we are clearly blocking this env local and cursor ignore. Absolutely not, dude. We are not blocking env local and cursor ignore. So again, it does refer to get ignore. I have raw dogged the envs. Let's check out this. I mean, this is not going to affect anything. Manage memories, user rules, project rules, include cursor rules file, if off. We don't have a cursor rules file, but that is not my concern. My concern is that it is aberrantly blocking this. Okay. Simply write all variables to a text file. I will copy them. And in the meantime, let's go over to Perplexity. This is my Supabase. Let's go over to Perplexity and see if there is a solution for this. I have tried to do this, but it's been less of an issue. And Greenfield is more of an issue. How can I enable agents to edit? Is it dot files? Let's do env files in cursor. So one of the things I have to do when it's debugging, this is more of an environmental issue right now, but I have used Perplexity MCP to great success, particularly for DevOps issues. Yeah, so it uses get ignore and it uses cursor ignore files. If env or similar files are in there, blah, 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 remove any env entries, blah, blah, blah. Remove any entries if cursor accept or respect get ignore. Okay, that's interesting. So we can maybe prevent that. Override project, open editor settings. Oh my God, cursor general settings, editor settings. Oh, this is obnoxious. There are secret settings in here, but this is like VS Code. CVS, files exclude. Okay, I don't really exclude any files, but let's see what's going on here. Cursor. Oh, this is going to help my buddy out a lot. Seems like the same options again. I hate this. Let's go back over here. Global ignore, sometimes other VS Code settings. Oh my God, what? Env or env. General settings, open editor settings. Are we really have to go through all this? Oh, here it is. Oh my God, dude. Are you kidding me? All right, this is a pearl. If there was ever a pearl, I have been struggling with getting it to really play with my .m files for a long time. You know, I guess the other things here I'm fine to exclude. God, that drives me nuts. That is insane. Let's grab this. Let's put it into our env local. It should now be able to edit env local, which is great. Ugh. Okay, that is insane. So let's check in on our boy over here. What has he been up to? Oh, it hasn't really gone that far. So he's checking out env local, simply write blah blah blah. It wrote an env variable, blah blah blah. Is ready for you to copy an env local. Let's continue slaying this setup. Oh, I'm not sure if I like the female version. Shouldn't see slaying them. Males, I guess. All right. Navigation, we're getting some utils, tailwind merge, blah blah blah. It's probably about time. So it's setting up navigation client. Interesting. We're adding a layout. I think we should start running this. It's going to be kind of fun. Now it is attempting to define early Prisma. Cool. PX Prisma generate. I'm not confident that that succeeded, but we will certainly find out again soon. And what are we up to now? We are modifying the homepage. Interesting. Now, this is a good point to begin evaluating whether or not it is closely adhering to our to-dos, right? Let us see here. So we're certainly hitting, I note that ShatCN is listed in the text stack, but it did not quite include ShatCN the way that I wanted it to. Blah, 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 blah. Prisma, Supabase, yep. Env local file with placeholder, folder structure, yep. It is proceeding here. It is not checking these off. Create basic layout component. That is what it is currently doing. Now it's going to check them off all at the end, which I will mention is actually contrary to my cursor rules. My cursor rules demand that you check it off line by line as you proceed. So this is an appropriate amount of disobedience from cursor. Let's actually blame the LLMs, right? That I would expect. So here it is. So it's double check them. Now double check in theory means that it has run and tested it. Single check is run or executed but not tested. Unfortunately, there are no tests, of course, for some of these things. You know, Prisma generate either runs or it doesn't run, and that's fine. So now we need to set up Supabase. So I'm not super confident here. Supabase environment variables. Let's accept this. All right, it's satisfied enough to delete the environment variables. It does have access to env. Oh, lovely. Okay, so let's Alt-Z. If you're not familiar with VS Code, you can Alt-Z to word wrap. Got a big fat string here, Prisma, Postgres, localhost, blah, 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 blah. That's cool. Right, publishable, database URL. I think it's trying to put the database URL right here. Yep. So the real question is, how can I see if it will keep working? No, it's not going to keep working. So we can just name this phase 1. Things are still very simple, and we haven't encountered any warning signs yet. All right, sync that up. Let's try to get a real Supabase URL, right? Wouldn't that be cool? Mm. Oh, good. I never paused. All right. It does look like we don't necessarily need to connect to Supabase right now. I think I will avoid doing that because I am self-hosted Supabase. I do not just get the nice raw database URL string. So let's think here. I think env local also overwrites my, yeah. So env local overwrites my .env. At least I'm pretty sure about that. So I do not want that. The other thing here is I don't like this. I'm going to run down here. npm run dev. All right. So there we go. So let's see what is going on. Again, local is 3000. It should just pop up here, 3001. That mean we're still running, or what am I running on 3000? That could explain why I had to buy more RAM recently. Oh, we're cooking. Okay. Oh, lovely. This is quite different than the default, right? This is not the Next.js default. I mean, it's quite, I wouldn't say ugly, but it's not great. Did it add these routes? No. No. Okay, that's fine. Looks good. Looks good. All right, let's get back here. Great. Yes, continue. So now we're getting closer to the point where we will actually need to be able to monitor this. Let's go to the to-do, see what phase 2 actually entails. Login page, login, sign up. So it could try to use Nextauth here. I really don't want to use Nextauth, and that might be exactly why we need to set up Supabase, right? For Supabase's user management. Oh, we called it MCP. That's great. So it's planning. Yeah. Implement route protection, user authentication status, middleware. Use auth. Yeah. Okay. So it's using Supabase auth. I like this. I don't think the Prisma dev is going to cover this. So Prisma provides a local database solution. I think it's SQLite for you to just play around in the development environment, which is amazing. And God bless Prisma. I think for this user authentication to work, it is going to have to actually connect to Supabase. So I guess let's begin constructing that URL, right? So I asked Perplexity here. Postgres, blah, 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 Postgres user, Postgres password. I do have all these lovely things. I'm really skeptical if this is what I should be doing because I'm not sure if I need to be connecting directly to Postgres or if I need to obtain a secret from Supabase as I have in the past, right? Let's go over here. I've got some issues here with how this is self-hosted versus what I've seen elsewhere. So issue number one is that I have very few options, right? There are just very few options here. Welcome to my project. Okay. Let's go to my table editor. I don't have any tables. Then I do have all these Supabase things. At the same time, I don't really have any of the connections I expect. So this is, okay. Initializing, import, create client Supabase.js. All right, that sounds good. Authentication. Okay. So I might even have, I could either copy this or I could feed it. Await Supabase auth sign up to the LLM. It's interesting. I didn't realize this APM documentation was customized. Generate from your database, which means blah, 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 blah. You can generate through Supabase CLI. Ooh, I didn't know about Supabase CLI. You have a GraphQL background, blah, 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 blah. Syntax is very similar. Okay, whatever. Oh, wow. I actually strongly prefer this to GraphQL in terms of readability. I hate whitespace sensitivity. Freaks me out. JavaScript through and through, baby. All right. Neato. It looks like you can even use GraphQL. Something's weird. GraphQL? All right. I'm not going to deal with that. Let's go back to see what's going on over here. We have an error. Cool. Client return, create browser client, process env, Supabase URL. So, of course, we do need the Supabase URL, as expected. So let's go over to our env and our env local. So this database URL is a localhost 51213 with a big fat API key. And then over here, let's see what I got. Oh, I got Nextauth. See, I am not convinced Let's see if it's pointing with Next.js. I do not think that I should be using Next.js for this project. I may need to, but I'm uncertain that I really don't want to be dealing with Next.js if I can help it. That is a huge part of the reason that I want to use Supabase. So let's go over here. Supabase URL, project URL, Supabase anon key, Supabase service role key. So let's get these. Let's see, I do believe that I'm getting something similar to that here. So if I go to, here's my URL. I like that. Where's my Supabase key? It's process imp. Oh, that's on Coolify. Okay. Yeah, we can grab this. This is a temporary URL for development Supabase. Right, let's put that in. You know, you guys have no idea how much I love exposing my stuff here. Absolutely love it. Let's get the anon key. Maybe I'll pause. All right, we are back. We've had 2 runs so far. Apparently it's been stunning and fire and gorgeous and beautiful. That is amazing. So this is actually kind of the dawn of being concerned about the runs that we're doing. I am concerned. So we have protecting routes of dashboard, subscriptions, billing, and settings. This was all in the to-do and PRDs. That's why we obsessed over that initially. I am concerned that it did try to write a Next.auth variable into env. So I'm going to double, triple check that we are not using Next.auth unless I am missing something we absolutely have to. You can see that I did, in fact, get my service keys. Fortunately, without word wrapping, you are not going to be able to copy those. Those are insanely long, absolutely nuts. It does keep trying to run the server, so I would like it to never run the server. That would be a cool thing for the memories to kick in. And I could also perhaps do that over cursor rules. I'm not annoyed enough now to actually enforce that. So serializing big strings, blah, blah, blah. Let us restart the server because we did make some significant changes and we modified some envs. So in theory, by modifying the env, Next.js will restart. But should we trust that? I don't know. Let's not trust it. Let's go back and make sure that we're on the right port. Next.js by default will increment ports. So you could be running multiple servers on multiple ports and one might be out of date. Times when to restart a Next.js server. Not entirely obvious to me, I'll be honest with you. But when in doubt, obviously restart, especially the size of the project right now. It's a very small ask. Next.js does compile quickly initially because it compiles the routes in on an as-needed basis on the fly. Okay, so we have a fun little thing here where the button is not making the cursor thing. I did make it to auto-approve my email, so let's see if that works. Yeah, that's what I want, baby. Oh, did I restart Supabase? I don't think it did. Now, I'd be very surprised if Supabase had inherent SMTP, but it is possible. So yeah, email not confirmed. Okay, cool. So it did make it. It did not approve it. So let's go to my authentication, and I have a user. And let's see if I can edit that user, invited, confirmed, blah, blah, blah. Remove MFA, reset password, blah, blah, blah. Email, signed in via an email account with OAuth? Did I do that? What? Phone is enabled. Okay, so that's an env variable. Yeah, I am impressed, Supabase. Confirm email. No, I don't want that right now. Secure email change would be required to confirm. Okay, that's fine. Logged out, blah, 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 blah. That's fun. Let's get back to this user. I want this user to be confirmed. Confirmed at logs raw JSON. So I don't get a button to simply confirm them, which is a touch tedious, I'll be honest. So I think now that I have disabled confirmation, I can probably just recreate this, or I could try to modify this directly, which Supabase is not really letting me do. So I'm surprised about that. All right, let's look at this user. Surely it will delete the user without me having to hang out here. Yep. So let us create a new account. This is fine for a first shot at making a sign-in page. All right, it's an amazing password. Some weird UI issues. I think what it's trying to do here is, and this is from experience, and you're welcome, it is trying to make a dark mode. And for whatever reason, with dark mode and light mode enabled, it kind of screws around. Right? You see I have a little box shadow here and needs more padding and needs all kinds of stuff. That little box shadow is indicative of it trying to make a dark in a light mode, but kind of failing to get the color contrast right, which is common for the LLMs. I don't think I particularly care about dark mode and light mode, but the fix is also very simple. In addition to the trivial UI issues, I do want to note that what did I do? You can do this on any site. I don't have an eyeball to reveal the password. I just typed some random stuff. So then I removed the type password field and tabbed out, and I can reveal the password as plain text. I can still submit in that state. Okay, so let's see if this worked. Oh, it did not save. There it is. Now let's see if I can sign in. The only reason it still said confirm. Shit. Still said confirm. I was assuming that I'm going to get away with it because I specifically asked it not to confirm. Did I not save somewhere? Confirm email. Where can I possibly save? Oh, right there. Failed to update, API error while trying to communicate with the server. Great. This is a setting in here. Let's get out of here. You can see fewer of my secret credentials. I will recreate this instance entirely before production, but be in development for a while, so I'd like to avoid doing that. So we will restart the server. I did disable the environment variable on my self-hosted Supabase that enabled me to have email confirmation or not. Note that I am going to hang on this before I proceed to the next run, because I do want to make sure that I am not using Next.js, right? If I have a concern or a doubt, I have two options. One, I could do something like run a background agent on the next stuff, ideally on its own branch. I could make a new branch myself to confirm that whatever I'm building on top of is tentative, or I could absolutely balls to the wall, get myself in a lot of trouble by continuing to just build this branch without confirming that the foundations are set up correctly. All right, so this is really slow. So we are exiting. See if we can deploy. Yeah, it's really chugging here. All right, it's degraded. It's degraded. I got to restart or redeploy. These health checks for Coolify, this is completely out of the box with Supabase, so it is probably accurate. When deploying my own Next.js projects, the health checks are inadequate, and we have to remake them ourselves. And that health check may or may not be really that interesting. I don't see deployments up here, so I don't necessarily have a clear idea of where we're failing, if we are failing. It would be very surprising if we were failing. I think it is simply taking a while to restart all these Docker services. So let's refresh. All right. The other fun thing that I noticed is on Supabase, I grabbed that API and the auth URL and all these lovely things, supabase.com. On here, I am making a single project Supabase. So Supabase.com is a platform for many possible Supabases. I'm in an individual instance of Supabase, which does, in fact, make a lot more sense of why I've been missing some of those options. Let's do a force restart. Now, I will leave that window open. I don't know if I need to, but I will. And to ask Perplexity, how can I verify a user's email on Supabase without from the backend? Now, doubtlessly, I could connect to the Postgres and simply modify that. I really don't want to do that. I set a string, email confirm field. Okay, so it makes the user, it does email confirm. It's a little bit goofy. Verifying one-time password flow. How about on the Supabase UI? I can't do it on the UI. See, I doubt that this is set up to actually send emails. I could just click my email, blah, blah, blah. Sincerely doubt it's set to do that. So let's see if this is still degraded. It is still degraded. Let's go back here. We are starting and recreating containers. Some are waiting, some are healthy, some are cooking. That's fine. Again, this is out of the box Supabase install, so there's a 0% chance that this won't build. I did modify some in variables, but nothing significant. Okay, let's go back to Cursor. Let's see what we're up to. So the next set of to-dos, we have in theory, okay, create a new Supabase project, authentication providers. Yeah, email passwords are minimum. Row level security policies. I don't know what that means. I probably should figure it out. Connect to Supabase successfully. And note that it did basically just bypass this stuff. So this results in a runtime error, the fact that we don't have these things. And if we allow it to proceed with a runtime error where we can't validate that, let's say the rest of these things are working, for example, logout functionality, really just like here, we have an issue with the LM. It has not tested the logout functionality, has written the logout functionality, but has given us two checks. It's given us two checks. So that'd be an area for memories because I know my cursor rules already tell it to only do it once it's tested. Annoyance at best, but not great. We can simply proceed to 3 checks for unit testing wherever possible. User profile and dashboard layout. Okay, very cool. Phase 3 is Prisma, Supabase, Postgres, run initial migration, create database utility functions, test database connection. So we definitively will not be able to proceed to phase 3 in the absence of having a functioning Supabase connection, which is what we are trying to test. Started. I'm just going to click out of here. I'm impatient. If Coolify stops trying to start these services on the premise of me clicking out of that screen, I would be surprised. All right, so we have a REST API, Minio create bucket, and Supabase meta. Supabase meta is probably quite, I suspect, important to us. Curious what the individual settings are there. Oh, interesting. Nothing much. So we know what should be starting here. Let's go over here. Huh, okay. So even without, I don't know what Supabase meta is. Let's give this a little more time to cook. I may have to run another restart, particularly if I had other issues. Your email change, enable email provider, confirm email. So let's see, it did seem to save that setting. Remember I was complaining that so confirm email is now off. And remember that it was complaining that it couldn't save the setting. It looks like that was false. It looks like it did save the setting. Let us go to authentication. Let us delete this user. Confirmed at, confirmation sent at. Again, if this out of the box, in fact, send an email, so interesting. I really doubt it. So let's go back over here. We will create a new account. Our Next.js server is, of course, happy. Yeah, let's do suggest strong password. There we go. Create account. I should save that, and we're good. Okay, cool. So now I have a dashboard. Unreal. If you don't allow yourself to be awed by the wonder and beauty of AI development, to bring your dreams to life, your software-related dreams, within minutes, have stopped living and stopped observing the external world, it is time to abandon your cynicism for but a moment to partake in the mystical beauty that surrounds us at all times. So other than that, we have a little onboarding checklist, which I think is very cute. It's deciding my name here for me, which isn't going to be appropriate in a lot of cases. Descriptions. Cool. Wow, it made these subpages. No, it made one of the subpages. See if we have settings. We don't have settings. Wow, really cool. So it made a dashboard and a subscriptions page. It's made some buttons here. This is roughly, it made the recommended for you component. Absolutely incredible. Now, the next stage is it would appear that we have a functioning Supabase connection. Validate this perhaps with a simple unit test using jest, and then proceed to phase 3. All right, we have a kind of another issue that we haven't addressed, which is I don't think that the Gen Z slang is as funny as it once was. Gemini is a lot funnier in general. Also, yes, bestie, nothing gross about that. So I think that we need it to be edgy. If edgy is a word that these people use, I don't know. But we need it to be, my sense of humor is not satisfied by what we're currently getting. You talk like an edgy, aggressive male. I'm tired of these bestie yas queen stuff. That's just killing me. See if we need to get it to spill into some other cultural milieu that is funnier to me at the moment. Except just testing, blah, 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 just, okay. Do I like these libraries? Testing library, just, I think I probably would prefer, I do believe that there is a Next.js package. So I will accept and I will stop. Check context 7. So before I ask it to use an MCP, there are several problems with MCPs in Cursor. One is that they're often going red. My context 7 is in fact green right now. Guess what? If it wasn't green, the solution is usually to toggle it on and off. I've got to blow in the cartridge a little bit. I'm revealing my age. Check context 7 for Next.js and jest documentation to ensure best practices, then continue. So I am interrupting halfway through, specifically at this critical juncture where we are getting our very first jest config. So I love the diff. Diff is not helpful here because it is a greenfield file, right? All right, so jest config, provide the path to your Next.js app. So it's at the root, jest config, root directory, jest setup. Yeah, here we are, jest environment, JS DOM. So it is successfully called context 7 for multiple libraries. Let me check the latest docs to ensure we're following best practices. Just trying again, testing just it. Looks good. Module exports. This is a very basic config. I'm concerned that this is not really what we want specifically for Next. And yes, it should be an additional package. Now it's importing the DOM. Next lint. Next. Okay, so it's adding our JS, our npm run test, adding a watch, and it looks like it was on the right track, but never a bad idea to. Wow, look at all this I've returned here. Context 7. Never a bad idea to make sure that your config files are following best practices using modern documentation. Cool. All right, so another issue, while we are doing unit testing and other kinds of testing in general, at this early stage, we don't necessarily know if the Supabase connection is working or not. So the problem could be in the test or it could be in the code, like the code base itself. The AI will strongly favor editing the test to make the test fit, even if the code base is failing. We may need to have it be aware of that. So it's making mock environmental variables. I think that is okay. Not sure if I really like that. And I am pretty confident, about 80-90% confident, that we are in fact creating the correct session with the Supabase secrets that we inputted earlier, specifically because we did manage to create a user and then authenticate into the app itself. You can see that it made user-specific information, such as, hi, Jeremy events, cute, and there it is. It wrote a passing test. It wrote 6 passing tests, which is always hilarious. Okay, so now it's calling sequential thinking, another really great CP that I've added myself. So I need to add data synchronization functionality, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes further. And then it thinks here, perfect, let me start by phase 3 about the API route. It just adds another layer. So if you are familiar with how LLMs actually work, Chain of Thought, COT, has been hot for the past 6 months, right? And it's led to major advancements. Seek R1 was the first to expose chain of thought reasoning in entirety, probably distilled it from OpenAI. I don't really care. We're not going to get into my biases about these various companies. But the chain of thought itself, when exposed, revealed a lot of very interesting things. And effective chain of thought is constantly self-doubting and insecure, which is a mental state that I try to entrap everyone that I work with and everyone, keep them doubting themselves, gaslight basic principles of reality, like, oh, that didn't happen kind of stuff. So it's critical to make sure that the LLM is insecure. That sequential thinking gives one additional bulwark for it to, it gives it another chance to be able to say, wait, but should I do this? So it makes the plan in sequential thinking, and then the thoughts themselves, these 2-second thoughts are unlikely to have a lot of this self-doubt. It's just saying, this is what I'm doing. I don't know at what point we decide to put those in thought bubbles instead of just outputting. Sometimes when you see complex thoughts, I don't think we're necessarily going to see this from Claude Sonnet 4, because Sonnet doesn't think that hard. Perfect, I've got this. From there, I'll do this. This kind of self-affirmation behavior leads to a lot of LLM output issues. Now, I have seen research papers that extra long chains of thought do not improve the efficacy of the prompting or the accuracy of the output. It's probably true, but I have personally noticed a lot of improvements when it comes to, and I particularly exposes these long chains of thought that are like, I should do this, but wait, if I do this, what will happen there? Oh, well, because I do this, then it will be like this. And that is actually a really, really good sign, particularly when we get to debugging. Guess how much debugging we've had? The answer is none. We're doing what I'm calling a run, which is going through the to-do and implementing these things in a completely greenfield manner, which is basically always going to be right. So we are the negative chain of thought at the moment, and we are monitoring everything that is going on. Now we've gotten really excited about unit tests, which I think is fine. Absolutely slaying. Ah, dude. Okay. Again. Okay, so it's doing some stuff here. We're just, we're lacking in the Gen Z slang department. But yeah, let's see. No cap. Finally, we get a no cap 100 rocket ship. Okay, go back here. We need to edit our rules again. And now we're going to talk like an edgy, aggressive male. More eggplant emojis. See, this is a serious issue for Cursor, is I want to use this. More eggplant emojis, but it keeps killing me, right? If I send a second too long in here, there's some kind of polling that resets that text area. Please, for the love of God, Cursor, solve that problem. All right, my subscription menu form, blah, blah, blah. It's no cap, for real, awesome. So let's see what that means. Let's see if there have been any UI changes. Let's look. Ooh, so now we have an error here, sync error, Prisma find unique, cannot fetch data from service. Okay, great. So now we have a new MCP that we can try out. I don't want to move on before we correct this critical issue. So note that Task Manager is never getting used, which is a real shame. I don't have Playwright. Why don't I have Playwright? Let's click this. No, bad. Why don't I have Playwright? Oh, God. And then I touched the settings files, and now everything will load indefinitely. I'll prove it to you. Sir, MCP. So they've really buried this. docs.cursor.com/tools. And this is where we can add Playwright. Playwright is local, I like. A browser-based may be a better option. I haven't played with browser-based yet. But the fact that I don't have to go out and get an API key, I do enjoy that. So note that these are all still yellow. Watch this. You got to blow. So Playwright is brand new. I think one of the issues here is, we'll see it up here perhaps. After you get over 40 tools, it complains quite a bit. Yeah, 43 tools. Playwright is 25 of those tools alone. Set a new rule. It's actually going to be a real rule. Edit this. Use Task Manager when adding features or debugging. See if we can get it to use Task Manager. It's using sequential thinking, which historically, so the way MCPs work, gotta get the dog here. You gotta get the dog. Oh, the way MCPs work is they have their own little context that they inject, which is exactly what Cursor is warning us about using too many tools. And the tools describe when should be used. So whoever wrote sequential thinking successfully managed to convince the LLMs to use sequential thinking sometimes. Certainly whoever wrote task manager has completely failed to ever have task manager execute spontaneously. Neat. So we have an error. Let's go here. Let's go over here. We have an error. We have a sync error. Go to our console. Tree hydrated. The hydration issue, I don't really care. User is internal server. I will add that. Playwright's going to have a hard time because of the auth. And now we can do our first bit of debugging. Note that Cursor is still not complaining about my context window. I haven't hit 200K yet. What we want to do to debug this is I am apparently running. This is 3000. Okay, 3000 is, we haven't used 3000 for a while. We've been on 3001. I'm apparently running PowerShell extension as my actual server. So I want to, I'm going to hit plus because I don't know how else to do this. I'm going to hit this. I want to rename it into server. And this PowerShell, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. So there's my server. I'm going to go over here to context. And I'm going to add server. See if it updated in real time. It did. So now, without copying and pasting the logging, I can just expose this window. Prisma has output quite a lot of junk. Thankfully, the AI will be able to look up to make sure that we know what we're doing. See errors. I honestly, I don't even want to put anything else. I also do kind of want to test whether or not it's going to use Task Manager now and if it will call Perplexity. So that's what it should be doing. Prisma configuration error is having trouble with database URL configuration. Let me fix this right away. Yeah, so that does make sense. That is more or less what I expected. It was complaining about user sync. User sync itself is probably fine. Let us go to Prisma itself. So we have a lot of noise in here. I want to close everything except for to do output, blah, 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 blah. Okay, it's fine. Accept all. So it's modified this. Let's make sure that I didn't screw around with this Prisma. So what did it do? Did it remove that one line? Did it remove output? I think so. I don't think I won output. And database URL, if you recall, is being imported from our env. Where is my env? Yeah, and this was hallucinated by Cursor itself. So should I be making my own database URL? And I guess we use the Supabase API to create the user, but then when we try to actually speak, every cell in my body screams out to say raw dog every 5 minutes because I think it's funny. When we try to call the database itself, the Postgres specifically, it is failing because this is a hallucinated API key. I don't know where I'm going to get the API key from Supabase. Let's look over here. Let's go to the API docs. Base URL. So that's my URL. And then Supabase key. And then Supabase is create client of URL plus key. Okay. Where is my Supabase key? Let me pause for a moment. All right. We are back. So I literally copied all the environment variables from Supabase itself. I copied a little bit of the documentation, which actually gives me the URL. Let's look over here. So this is my URL. It's a temp URL, but we'll keep it for the time being. And I copied the raw Supabase password. All right, there we go. Actually, the Supabase password, the Postgres password, that's what I made. And I said, Claude, Anthropic, you're a human-centered AI. You care about the safety, and that's why you're going to report me to the FBI. That's why I want you to have all these sensitive details, and you figure it out. So let's see if I figured it out. All right, so it's writing all this stuff. It is error handling for the environmental variables. Let's see what it did here. Oh, and variables real. Okay, so it can edit the env, but I think that it somehow within this context knows that it can't do the env. You can edit the env yourself. Do it. Now it's running unit tests again, and these unit tests are not actually adequate to be able to test for the connection because it is mocking the Prisma interface, right? So that's a little bit goofy. And let's have it cook here. I will get rid of this env, I think. We'll see what it does. This commented code up here suggests that it is Prisma itself is more interested in the env than the env local. I don't think that's true, but let's say it is true. I don't want to screw around with that. Stripe configuration, placeholder. Yeah, okay. Postgres via Supabase. Interesting. So I am a little bit curious there. Hopefully we don't expose anything. All right, so there's my, yeah, so it makes this URL localhost. It's not on localhost. It's not on localhost. What is it thinking? Oh, I made a Next.js secret. All right, so we really need to be careful to figure out if it's actually using Next.js, right? We are hanging here. Note that Cursor has conveniently told me that Claude is running out of space here. So it is time to start a new window. I'll probably need to debug into this next Composer tab, which is exactly what I warned you about in episode 1. Yeah, I will leave the Next.auth thing here now. I don't have any validation whether or not Next.auth is being used or not, or if my are well-founded. Now, this Postgres thing is probably wrong. So let's keep the context from this agent somewhat, right? So this is going to present a summary. This is one of the main services that Cursor has over using something like root code or whatever. Maybe root code also has this. It's going to summarize the previous conversation. And MDB is not localhost. The connection incorrect. The actual URL is the actual DB URL is in env. So it's very unlikely that this Postgres local blah 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 username at localhost is correct. The port is almost certainly correct. Yo, bro, there we go. It's getting aggressive. It's getting eggplant emoji. That's good. We've got some database connection drama going on. Let's check out what's happening with this DB situation. A little funnier. I'm going to need to have it start making some weird innuendo. All right, fam. Does a self-respecting Generation Z man say fam? I hope not. All right, so let's see. We have npm test pattern database connection. Yeah, that seemed malformed. All right, there we go. That's concerning that a fresh context window is able to get that screwed up that quickly. Database connection passed. All right, I like that we're at 100% coverage. I am concerned that these tests are not, yeah. I found it. It said, hey, these tests are just mocking the database. That is right, brother. Let's fix this. Eggplant flex emoji. That's what I'm talking about. See, this is, I can't flex my biceps with the LLM. Is it really an LLM? Bruh. This test file is empty AF. That's what I'm talking about. Let's create a real connection test and fix this DB URL mess. Fire eggplant. So, who said that cursor rules aren't obeyed? I'm getting the fire. I'm getting the eggplant. I'm getting the flex emoji. Finally, with this new context window. And, you know, that's actually very interesting. I don't know if this is true, but this is evidence for us to speculate that the new context window may, in fact, refresh cursor rules, or just by being a larger relative section of the context that we're feeding to LLM, that it becomes more important. So I don't know if the cursor rules are, this is proprietary to Cursor for all I know, if the cursor rules are primed at the beginning of a new agent window, or if the cursor rules are injected every time in the middle. That is a serious question. All right. Planning next muse. Perfect. Just as expected. Localhost ain't working. Now let me fix this DB URL and use the proper remote Supabase DB. So let's imagine for a moment that you are an unwashed, uneducated swine out in the streets eating trash. You are not familiar with the fact that my Supabase URL is, in fact, not localhost. Hope for you. Yes, and that's where using something like Perplexity would really help a lot. But we need to be at this high level of architectural planning for the project. You know, the AI is not going. The AI will expand upon what you ask for. If you are not aware that Supabase is not being run on localhost for your project, you are in a lot of trouble. And I don't know a great solution. I do counsel a lot of people who are be able to catch something like that. But if you're an experienced programmer, you're in a privileged, useful position here where you can, in fact, identify that this should not be working, right? The way that it is should not be working. Now, I could obviously just fill in the URL myself and then run these tests and do this myself. But boy, do I love that it's getting context 7, that is just running these tests for me, and then I'm running my mouth to you, looking into a camera, looking like a fool, instead of doing this work myself. All right. Error code P2024. All right, there is different now. Connection pool is means it's trying to connect, but timing out. Use a host name instead of the IP. Why were you trying to use the IP? Is the IP up here? No. I don't want to reveal the whole thing, but let's check it. This is just that. Yeah, so the host name itself includes the IP because it's one of these SSIPs. It's a coolify service, connect timeout 30 seconds, require SSL. Right, still getting timeout. This looks like a self-hosted, yes. Let me try 654, which is commonly used for pooling. I'm skeptical of that. Let's go back and see if we can help it. See here. So I don't have any port here, but that is not for Postgres, like Postgres itself. Will I have a place that will expose my ports? All right, let's pause. All right, so I have re-entered into this context the exact Supabase environmental variables. That should help. I do want to note, I want to give credits here to Fire100. Is in fact using Perplexity search. That's what this search is. Supabase self-hosted Docker database connection, SSL, blah, 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 error server codes. If you're encountering this, so it's making a really admirable attempt, and it is in fact using MCPs as I want them to. It is concerned about the port between Postgres and a pooling service. Now, it is possible that that pooling service is, okay, undefined. We're outside the Docker network, only works inside the Docker network. We do have another component here. It doesn't resolve expected, blah, blah, blah. All right, we will let it cook here. It will, of course, consume my money in the process. But if you recall, we do have an unhealthy container. And since I exited from this stupid little, it wasn't a modal, but you know what I mean. I didn't let it totally restart. We don't have meta. We don't have minio, create bucket. And we don't have rest. And the rest and meta, which I'm not sure what meta is, those could be important. All right, so let's stop here. We're going to exhaust our context window. It has tried a lot of things. That is good and bad. So it's tried a lot of things that didn't work. If the problem is that the Postgres Docker deployment did not work and it refuses to try the things that it's already tried, that is bad. If it is able to intelligently parse out the fact that service in that service wasn't working, we'll tell it, and I've restarted the server and that it is now working, then perhaps we're cooking. Oh yeah, I love it when it says all cooked. So let's ask it to do that. Let's force a restart. And while we're waiting on that, we will go back over here. And ever in the pursuit of excellence, we are called, we are moved forward by the weight and the force of our ancestors for thousands of generations, carrying the torch to bring you into existence, to share not only the ecstasy of the present moment, but also the agony of the perpetual past and the uncertain future. And part of that has to do with gaining pleasure from the moment by having cursor say all cooked when you're done. So that should improve our user experience significantly. I can't have it continue iterating on the Postgres thing because I have to get all these containers started. And because of some sick, freakish thing. So we already have a dependency that failed to start, which is Minio, which is one of the things that failed. So maybe that will permanently fail. I'm not sure. One was rest and meta. So rest and meta, I don't see any specific logging there. I will report this back. So we've created the container for meta. We have created the container for rest. Storage vector, Minio. So Minio exited. I don't like that. It seems impossible to me that I truly have to stay on the screen just to have my service restart. So let's see what created unhealthy. Is it going to continue to work here? Supabase Analytics, Logflare, Supabase REST. So Supabase REST exiting is interesting and concerning. Okay, so here Supabase Kong, Minio, Meta. I'm very uncertain of why those would fail, right? So let's see. Let's go back here. On our instance, the following Dockers are exited. Minio, create bucket, Minio MC, base, Meta, Supabase REST was the last one. So you do need to have a disgusting memory to be able to keep track of these things. Supabase REST. Yeah, so we have the exact same configurations before, the exact same constellation of issues. Would these affect our connection? That's almost spelled right. Connection. Would all other Dockers services are healthy? Let's see, that gives it a little bit more juice. We are getting different errors. Now the problem is I don't know what the name of these errors are. Database connection sales, close the connection, servers close the connection. So these are from Prisma, which is interesting. We definitively have access to the API. An issue, Supabase Meta manages schema, critical for DB operations, REST, post-REST. That's cute. So for external connections, okay. Is basically isolated even if it's running, request planning, all right, let's start with the first task, restarting the super blah, 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 blah. It's not really going to be able to help me here. Restart Supabase REST. Yeah. Restart all Supabase services. Okay. So let's see, why would that possibly be failing? So that's great. Now, the overconfidence of the AI means that we can't trust that this is in fact the problem. Train logs, exclude from service tasks. Let's go to logs. Let's see if we can get clear logging here. We haven't performed any operations. Supabase auth, Supabase DB, edge functions, Kong meta. Importing JSON functions, blah, blah, blah. Server is listening. Shit. So it doesn't sound like it's exited. Right? It does not sound like it's exited. It also doesn't look like 1,000 lines of code here. So let's look at our time. 6:18, that is today. 18:22. 19 is unclear to me what that is. So I think that the issue is during the build, right? I don't think that we're getting the logs for the build when I go to these logs. Let's go to REST. Listening, config resolved. Listening for Postgres. Okay, so this apparently was working as recently as today. And I don't know the time zone. This is Z, give me the time zone. Let's just ask Claude real quick. What time is this? What time zone? I think the Z does mean the time zone is included. I think that's an ISO string. Oh, shit. I didn't give it the string. Continue, buddy. Get back out of here. All right. So if this was 5 minutes ago, then it would have built successfully 5 minutes ago. If this was an hour ago, then it would have built successfully before I made some minor changes. Yeah, which is UTC. Blah, 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 blah. Bigger fish to fry. Yeah, that's cute. Whoa. Zulu. UTC. 722 UTC. 722 UTC to Mountain Time. Oh, to TM. See if that works. Wow, TM is a time. Is the Tucumán province. Mountain Time. Really? Hold on. Oh, PM. So it's 19. 122. oh, well, shit. That was 6 minutes ago. So apparently the service is starting, and I'm not even sure if it's unhealthy now. So now I have doubts as to whether or not this is truly unhealthy. Schema clash queried, blah, blah, blah. Let's try to run a health check. But it's hard to believe that it would, in fact, be reporting that the container exited. That it exited, even though, it's hard to believe that it exited and we didn't, and that's a false report. If it was unhealthy, it might not be healthy, right? That's fine. Health checks are stochastic and unpredictable. Health checks are like pinging certain ports. Exited means that we failed the Docker build. Totally different issue. I'm getting in here. All right, we're back to attempting to build it. We'll see if I get any errors while building it. All right, is real life. This is not a dream. It's quite common to end up with major connection issues. So let's make our push here. What are we at? Pre-phase 3 DB connection issues. And we will do this all over again, albeit not as bad when we move from development to production. So getting the proper environment correct will just keep going. It mocked a DB connection, a remote DB connection, and it mocked it as a local thing. And it was satisfied with that, right? So all my tests were passing. And again, how do we avoid this? Well, we have to stop until we can either manually verify certain changes. Later on, we will use automated testing to verify that the changes that we're making are not breaking things. If we go way up, I think we've been on this issue the entire time, this window, but we weren't doing anything particularly crazy. The issue was merely a misunderstanding in a quite common and somewhat trivial way of how the database is connected. Now, gracefully, I deployed Canvas LMS yesterday, and it is it has a Docker shell script, so you'd figure it'd be a quite easy install. It's not that easy of an install. And if you've ever looked at Docker Compose error logs, it is massive. They are ugly. You needle in a haystack for a long ass time before you find even the most basic thing. And then you find it, and then you proceed to edit like some simple permissions error. Gemini particularly, but any of the LLMs probably can take one of those Docker Compose logs and radically shorten the issue. So that took me about 30 minutes to install this rather complicated piece of open source software. For context, by complicated, I mean the official minimum requirements are 8 gigabytes RAM, 150 gigabytes on the hard disk. Can you imagine that? Like, what is even going on? I guess it's pretty robust. Little plugin for a client. All right, so we're back to started Minio bucket. That's good. Let's see if we can find an error in here. We do not have it yet. So we're waiting to start Minio. We have a couple of different Minio packages. Create bucket is started. Now, I'm going to see healthy there to be satisfied that that is done. We pulled meta rest. Meta and rest are what we're interested in. Minio create bucket, I kind of presume, is an S3 thing. Supabase DB, healthy. Let's closely monitor this. It's a little bit interesting that these build logs on every other Coolify, every other little thing that I have, I get deployment logs in status. But I am pretty sure that if I click out this window, this sucker is gone. So we're just going to hang here. I guess I can pause. I miss the dulcet sounds of my voice, but I guess for you it won't take very long at all. All right, we are back. What did we do? We completely remade Supabase, which is not that bad in Coolify. Still getting server closed, P1017. We have completely new credentials. It could have screwed up how it does the credentials. I will say, if we hop over here, all of our containers are healthy except for Minio create bucket. The AI did not find Minio create bucket as important. I also, bucket just doesn't sound like something I'm concerned with. Sounds like S3. Oh, there's a lot of beautiful credentials for you. Well, by the time you're seeing this, I'll make 5 new Supabases anyway, so Let's see here. It is continuously modifying the string. It is trying to use Prisma to check, which I kind of like and I kind of don't like. I'm concerned about text connection.js. So it is entirely possible that the AI will continuously run a bad test that would not actually reveal what's going on. So let's go over here. Constant, blah, 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 cannot read local env, catalog, and then say if it's set or not set, then make a new Prisma client, and then connect Prisma. And then that's where we're getting the errors. I'm still getting can't reach, which means Postgres isn't exposed externally. Yeah. Let's see if be the issue. By default for security reasons. Okay. Not exposed by default. Supervised connection poor. All right. Kong API proxy, which is exactly what I thought. And by the way, we would never have gotten there if it weren't for perplexity search. And it does a good job. With perplexity searching. Supabase self-hosted, external database connection ports exposed. Configuration Postgres access. That's exactly what it wants. Now, it searches like it would search Google, not Perplexity. It does not ask a question, but that's fine. And then looking from the env variables, blah, 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 bingo, blah, blah, blah. Use only Supabase client for database operations. Now, I literally thought this from the beginning. All right, so now it's going to use supervisor pooler. Exposed to SQL port. I don't really want to do that. Now, Supabase client for database operations, why is it trying to use the pooling? The Supabase client would be a major refactor. Let me try the pooler approach since that might be exposed. Yeah, no, wrong. Still no luck, no grid, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, there are no major refactors at this point, which is exactly why we're trying to catch this now. Use the client, forget about pooling and direct Postgres access. Yeah, so I wanted to use the Supabase client the entire time, not being fully confident or knowledgeable of how Supabase works. I neglected to force the issue before. I do think that we had an actual issue with the prior deployment. Containers were not healthy. Oh, way more aligned with self-hosted setup, Supabase client. All right, we're ditching Prisma entirely. I am skeptical that that is what we actually need to do, but I'm willing to entertain it. I do love Prisma. Calm proxy. It's a complex schema with 5 models. Oh my God, really? You think so? From Prisma would be a major refactor. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Now, it's not that bad to expose Postgres, but I'm curious about Supabase. Okay. Users table linked to Supabase auth. New test that uses the actual Supabase client. I want to understand a little bit more. I am more experienced with Firebase. So let's see if this works. So I made a database test. It failed. Cool. Let's actually read this file. I'm kind of curious. Let's accept. Let's clear this out. It obviously has changed quite a bit. Supabase URL and Supabase role key. So it should be getting those from the environment. Let's see. Supabase, blah, blah, blah. To be defined. Supabase. Yeah. Create client with the explicit things. I don't like these defaults. It's probably necessary for TypeScript. This is effectively not different. So it is floundering. Yeah. Okay. Tests are passing. So it looks like it yet again mocked it. Let's double check that. It should be, it says this test Supabase connections doing a brand new file. That's fine. Simple health check. Test if we can run raw SQL auth test. Okay, I like that. Auth is successful and connection is complete. Could not find the public version, so it can't. So this is where we have been, right? This is not actually progress. I love this, very excitable. I find it relatable. I think it's cute how it continues to work here. But yeah, this is not actually progress. We have successfully been using the auth setting. Database access. Just need to create tables. Okay. So let's see here. List tables and see what exists. Okay. Yeah. Yo, bro, we did it. Connection successful. Supabase connection. Oh my God, amazing. Oh, mark task done. So it is in fact using Task Manager, which is lovely. All the more reason to be using cursor rules to enhance your MCPs. All right. Create database tables, blah, blah, blah. You need to approve this task. I'm going to say yes, continue. Be sure to validate, let's see, that we don't need to change any current API calls and that we remove Prisma entirely if it is redundant. All right. And this is, unfortunately, I will probably work more on this project without, we're going to need to find a way to get more concise. This is a vibe sesh. This isn't a cursor situation. Maybe one day we get an AI that will edit videos for me, and then we'll be able to give you more concise tips. For better or worse, I have sufficient hubris and arrogance to believe that from my legitimate multiple thousands of hours of experience with cursor, do have important insights to relate to you. The challenge is I can't be bothered to produce a video that is anything except me doing actual work, which I have to do anyway. So with sufficient editing, I think we will be able to extract the pearls and present them as an actual YouTube video that respects your time. Other than that, we're pals, buddy. We're hanging out. We're having a good time. We're building a parasocial relationship. You know me. You're scrutinizing that thing behind my head. You're like, what is that? Who signed that $2 bill hanging behind me? You'll never know. There's my account, etc. So I think the Vibe Sesh has a value, but we will also one day a true cursor tips video. Shout out to David Andre, who made a great cursor tips video, the first and arguably only of its kind that I've seen. I mean, I think he's blown up his channel on this too, and that helped me a lot. But there's a lot further that we can go with how to use cursor and have it work. Right? There's a lot further. So anyway, we will get there one day. Maybe I'll hire an editor. It's but an experiment for me, quite obviously, a low effort experiment. But I've got to go. I've got a meeting. Best. We will check in and hopefully maybe we develop this whole project together. I think that'd be fun.